Hi, everybody. Welcome back to Ox Talks. It is October 20th, 2023. It's a Friday. Hope you all are looking forward to a nice weekend. Hope we get some family time in. I wanted to take a few minutes to do a video today. It's going up later than normal. I've had an extremely long day today. Usually Fridays are not that brutal. Today it just seemed like it was nonstop from the beginning of the day to right now. Did some client meetings this morning early, went and trained with Elias with some jiu-jitsu for an hour, came back to the office, had 3 or 4 phone conferences, a couple more client meetings, and I'm trying to get something up here for you guys before the weekend. I was keeping watch on the markets today, keeping watch on some of the news stories. The stock market closed down again today. The NASDAQ fell, I believe, over 200 points, which is substantial for the NASDAQ. But what I noticed when I was flipping through some of the individual stocks, the bank stocks appeared to get hit pretty hard today. I didn't see any particular news articles being released about the bank stocks. A couple of particular banks didn't do too well, but my local regional bank here, I know one of the vice presidents real well, and I happened to pull up that bank's stock, and it was down over 7% today. And I took a screenshot of the price, and I circled it, and I circled how far it was down, and sent it over to my friend who's the vice president of the bank. And within about 2 minutes, I received a text message back saying "time to buy" with about 3 exclamation points. It's funny how you come at things from different perspectives. Unfortunately, being a litigator, my glass always tends to be half empty, not half full. Unfortunately, that's something you learn after 28 years of litigating cases in court. But the point is that the response was time to buy. Everybody always believes that everything is going to buy the dip and it's all going to rebound. It's the same thing with a lot of friends of mine that are heavily invested in the stock market. When the stock market's going up, I'm getting texts all day about how well they're doing and how this stock's going up and that stock's going up, and they're listening to earnings calls and everything is rainbows and unicorns. But it's funny, when things are not going as well, when the stock prices are falling many days in a row at substantial amounts, it's like crickets. I don't hear from these guys in terms of what's happening with their portfolios. I know what's happening, and I'm not one to rub it in, but the point is that it looks like we're continuing to wade into a real treacherous time here. The stock market is definitely sending a signal. We know that the bond market is sending a signal. We know that the housing market is sending a signal. And the point is you need to, in my opinion, be defensive right now. Consider sitting on the sidelines for a bit. Consider pulling some chips off the table. I tell my friends sometimes, consider taking some profits on some of those stocks that have been doing really well, and not just automatically reinvesting everything back into the market. And we'll see how this plays out. It looks like the situation in Israel is continuing to get tense. Going into a weekend, it always seems like things happen over the weekend when people are unable to go and sell those stocks. There was some news out on the housing market today that JP Morgan is reversing their course on the housing market, seeing a lot more pain ahead, it says, for home buyers. A lot of home buyers are locked in. If they want to sell their home, but their mortgage is at 3.5% or 3%, and they want to sell the house, what are they going to do? Unless they're going to cash out, take that cash and go pay something for cash with no mortgage, they're stuck, because they're going to have to then go into a new property at an 8% or higher mortgage. So what the analysts are saying is that this is creating the lack of supply on the market. The question is this going to cause prices to rise or to fall? Morgan Stanley says they believe prices are going to rise due to lack of inventory. I'm not so sure about that. because what we're not taking into consideration is the amount of foreclosures that are going to start hitting the market. Foreclosures, we know, are at an all-time high. So when you have a massive amount of foreclosures hitting the market, how are prices going to rise? I'm not a real estate expert, but I take issue with those kind of articles, and I think it sends, in some respects, the wrong signal, because it sends the signal to people that if you do take the plunge right now and buy, that you're going to have some sense of security in the value of that property. I believe it's a false sense of security which is being put out there by some of the more mainstream media. So what kind of legal issues am I dealing with right now that I'm seeing in my practice? I'm seeing a lot of real estate non-disclosure issues, boundaries, things that were wrong with the property that were not disclosed. Couple words of caution: if you're buying a new build house, and specifically if you're buying, additionally if you're buying vacant land, do your due diligence while you're in escrow. Pay to have the survey completed, to check to make sure that the boundaries are what you think they are and that you're actually buying what you think you are buying. Have an appraisal done of the property to confirm the square footage. If there's been any modifications done to an existing property, confirm that it was all done with permits and by licensed contractors. You can get that information from your local city department, building department, but do those kind of things. When you get a preliminary title report during escrow, read the title report. If there are exceptions on the title, read what those exceptions are. If there are any easements noted on the title report, hunt those down, figure out what those are. Because once again, once escrow closes and the title's been transferred and you realize something is not as it was represented to be, and it was something specifically that maybe you could have figured out or learned about had you done your requisite amount of due diligence prior to closing the transaction, that's going to be, in some respects, that's going to fall on you. Now, if you have a seller that is withholding something, let's say there was some mold or some water damage on the property and they didn't disclose that on the real estate transfer disclosure statements, though that obviously is something where you may have a claim there. But boy, it's problematic, it's expensive, it forces you to then hire a lawyer and go through that process. So I'm seeing a lot of boundary disputes and a lot of non-disclosure issues. And also in the context of partners in property, when you co-own property with somebody else, I mentioned it in one of my prior shows, please make sure you have a solid agreement that sets forth what everyone is supposed to do, what their rights and obligations are, so if a dispute arises, you have something to fall back on. I'm also seeing a lot of business partnership disputes. And maybe this has to do with the fact that businesses in general are falling on harder times, costs are going up, the overall business sentiment is getting impacted, it's down. And I think that weighs on people, and owners of business they're not immune to that. So I'm seeing a lot of partnership disputes, doctors, professionals, contractors. You see this across all aspects of business types. Again, sometimes they're unavoidable. If you have written contracts that delineate what everyone is supposed to do, and in the event of a dispute, what is going to happen? What is your dispute resolution process? And I'll address that in another show. That's a whole show of itself about dispute resolution process and how detailed your agreements and contracts should be with people or with partners or with business associates as to, if a dispute arises, what is the mechanism for attempting to resolve that dispute. So a couple of topics there that I wanted to cover. Other than that, other than the markets being down, gold being up again today, I believe oil was down fractionally. They were able to pull the 10-year bond down a little bit, but stocks still fell under substantial pressure, even with that bond yield coming back down a bit. Gold is really impressive. Obviously has a lot to do with what's going on over in Israel, but I think other factors, it seems to me that that people are starting to wake up about the benefits of having precious metals and what it can actually do to help to protect you. We talk about debt levels. In closing, assess where you're at and do your best to pay down debt. Some debt is important, some debt is necessary for the right reasons, but in terms of extraneous debt, credit card debt, things like that, try to put a plan in effect to reduce that. There's no downside to it. The more debt-free you can be, the better off you'll be, and the more freer you will be. So I'm going to end it there today. I just ran through a whole bunch of items there, and I'll drill down in future shows on each of those topics more. Just wanted to put something up for you all to consider before the weekend. I'm going to go and grab another workout here for an hour and then head out, have some dinner. So I hope you all have a safe and healthy weekend. If I don't see you tomorrow, I'll do my best to put a show up on Sunday. If you guys are liking the content, hopefully you're getting something out of it. I will continue to address new topics that affect not only my business, the legal profession, but run the gamut of other issues as well, dealing with the economy and what's going to be most assuredly a continued downturn and collapse. We're seeing it unfold before our eyes. So anyway, give some consideration to subscribing to the channel if you like it, and please share it with your friends. Hit the notification bell if you also would. Give it a thumbs up. And with that being said, talk to you in a couple days. Bye-bye.